So those looks. Um, I'm going to tell my story or a story. You can take it as fiction, take it as fact, whatever you want. This is gonna be my story. At the end of my story, I'm gonna leave you guys with a couple of messages. But before that, we gotta talk. I want to pick up like on current events on where we left off. So let me just start by saying this: I hear voices and I see things. I have since I was a child, since as long as I can remember. I'm only just now learning the depth to how far that goes. And I'm just coming into an understanding of that. The only reason that I'm just now learning it is because I had to cut everybody off so that I could have some time by myself to meditate and really focus on what's happening. And the reason that happened is because I had a mental break. I was trying to check myself in to therapists to say that I was crazy. And the therapists were like, no, you're not crazy. In fact, you don't need to continue therapy. So then I came back and I'm like, but then why this and why that? Questioning the voices and the things that I see. But every time something would happen where I was in a position with a family member or someone who claims to love me, that I would throw them something, right? To just kind of see, like, do you see what I see? Do you see what this is? Or just see responses. I would either get meted with lies, criticism, scoffing, laughing off. Where'd you get that from? YouTube? Whatever. Dismissing. Just very dismissive. These are people that say they love me. Very dismissive. And it drove me to a point where I snapped and I thought I was crazy because I have therapists telling me I'm not. I went twice to try and check myself in. Twice. Right? It was over the course of the year, of the last couple of years, whatever. Because I thought I was nuts. And the people that I did confide in misused that information or abused it or whatever. And the other people that didn't see it, I tried and it didn't work because it's caught up in lies or themselves or whatever the case is. But we're going to talk about all that. So my story is going to cover that, and at the end I'll deliver the messages. Before we do, the last conversation that we had, which I apologize for reacting emotionally to that, but the last conversation we had was regarding, this whole started off with George Floyd, right? If I remember, there was a text that you sent me for an article about George Floyd, right? And it was like a view from another perspective.
Yeah.
And
you sent a text back that said something about, at the end of the day, the facts.
Yeah.
At the end,
I just replied with, when does the day begin?
Right.
Are the facts not the same?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where this started, right? At the end of the day, the facts are the facts. So when you saw that, at the end of the day, the facts are the facts, what came to your mind? How did you feel? What were you thinking? Can you be as honest as possible?
I'll be straight. The words you say.
Okay.
Is I take the words you say as you say them. I think you mean them literally, for the most part. Oh, this is obvious. And then I question those words to you. I put a question to those words to. Sometimes it is to blatantly show you those words are not true. The other way is to show. The other thing would be like to say, clarify more, because you are stating at the end of the day. Okay, so I know if I say when is the end of the day and when is the beginning of the day, I'm also pointing to how do you define that, and then you say facts at the end of the day, and then I have to go with the facts. So the facts you're telling me, in a sense, as far as I understand, are clear to you at the end of the day, which indicates they're not at the beginning. But this is just you. The facts are still the same. That's what I would ask a question about your statement, to clarify how you say what you say, and if those words you're using are really understood by you.
So that's exactly what I'm going to explain to you. So we're going to discuss that real quick. But how did you receive them? I understand how you took them in and processed them, but how did you receive them? Did it offend you? Did it bother you? Did it...
Personally, no.
Did you have a vision of what I meant by the facts are the facts? Of what I was seeing or saying?
No. My initial thing is, you're saying something that you don't really comprehend. That statement is not exactly true. That's a statement that you might be just throwing out as a statement without trying to place total emphasis on it. But if you are, you're not understanding what you just said. Because this is not true.
What's not true?
You're saying at the end of the day, the facts. But this is a partial truth because the beginning of the day, the facts. And the facts are the facts. Doesn't matter whether you perceive them now or later. That's what I'm saying. How you think about facts doesn't do a thing to facts.
So,
And I gotta put in one more thing, alright?
good.
Probably the most foundational part is I'm gonna put forth the Bible. I've been studying the Bible
Good.
for a good long time. Well over a year, almost 2 years. And I've been studying it from the way it was written by the Hebrews, through the Hebrew culture. I don't know Hebrew. But the same thing if I speak of chi, Americans don't know what chi is. That's because it's a cultural concept of the Asians. In order to understand it from an American standpoint, you have to understand the cultural concept and the culture, and for the most part, who it's written to, who, by who, and without that, you're just taking it and putting it here, and it means nothing. So I would bring the Bible into it. When I state, when does the day begin? That's my first question. It's not so much about when you think the day begins, but what the Bible says. When does the day begin?
Okay, so let's go back a little bit to where
I'm trying to bring the Bible.
we can go as much into the Bible as you want. I promise. We got all the time in the world.
That's okay, yeah. Talking, so.
But just going back to the part where we're talking about me using the verbiage of the facts are the facts. You know, at the end of the day, the facts are the facts. And as you said, not fully comprehending what I was saying. So you felt that I'm not fully comprehending what I'm saying because in your view, what I'm saying, I'm misusing the word in your view, which means that you believe that you have some sense of what I'm trying to say. Is that fair?
By your statement, yes.
Okay.
I have a sense of what you're trying to say.
Okay. So you have a sense of what I'm trying to say, and that's your perspective. Now, here's what I was actually trying to say. Can you recall? I know you did your research and you looked at the whole George Floyd situation.
No,
I know.
didn't really look at George Floyd, but go ahead.
Well, there's at least that video, whatever that was shared, right? Mm-hmm. So we saw that. So can you recall from what you know about the situation? Can you envision in your head how that situation went down and just describe it from your memory in as much detail as you can?
No, because I saw the first video that came out. I was directed to other videos that showed the length. And I did not, with interest, research anything. I just watched those videos. So I cannot tell you with in-depth observation.
No, just from your recall. Like, what do you remember of the videos that you saw or the clips that you saw? It doesn't have to be perfect.
The main one was the first one that I saw, which did not show the beginning parts.
Okay, if I may. He never saw that video.
The one that you sent me.
Right.
From the other perspective.
Right.
Okay.
Because I sent that to you, and then he just saw the response.
And then jumped on the response.
Right.
Okay.
So he's not viewed
okay.
that same
Do
video.
you remember the footage? Can you recall?
I do, because it was a footage of the police cam.
Mm-hmm.
It was the police cam that was now released. And that was now showing them approaching him in the car right before, he started resisting arrests.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying how he didn't want to go to jail again, and to please just stop, I don't want to go to jail again, no. And then he continued to try to get away from them, like push them away and resist a little and get into his just car and just like pretend it never happened. And then the cop continued to get aggressive with him. And then from there, I saw another cop going over to around the corner to the passenger side, because there was another guy over there on that side also. And then from there, they like sat him down and had him handcuffed, and then got up again. And I don't recall exactly. I think they had gotten him into the cop car, and he was trying to get out of the cop car again, and that's how he fell to the floor. And that's when the guy put his knee on top of him and just held him down there. And the rest continued until we passed there. But
Okay. Do you remember any of that footage from like what
I
she's
do
saying?
remember some of it, yeah.
Some of it. Do you remember anything different, similar that you want to describe? Like, I'm just trying to get a vision of what's in your head when you think about the situation.
No, she, like, I could have jumped in and said, well, yeah, they had, if I remember correctly, they had him getting in the car. He was resistant, and she pointed out how he was trying to resist and act as if, like, it's okay, everything should be fine, I'm not in trouble, and let me go on my way. But he was trying to get in the car, they were trying to put him in the car. And I thought from the video, it looked like they had gotten him pretty much in.
right.
And then he came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were trying to get him in again. And from there, I can't be specific about.
Okay. So I like the fact that none of you referred back in recalling your memory, referred back to the white cop or the black guy or anything with color, or you know what I mean. It was he did this and they did that.
Right.
Where you'd be surprised, I asked that same question 20 other people, it's not going to be the same answer every time. Mm-hmm. You'll get colors involved, you'll get other events involved, other things involved, right? So when I say the at the end of the day, the facts are the facts, here's what I mean. Imagine that what we really are, this other world, if you want, we can start dipping into the Bible and religion, but what we really are, our souls, our energy, our chi, whatever you want to call it, imagine that it is a light energy that is conscious. A light energy that's conscious, right? Mm-hmm. For the sake of being able to visualize it, let's just give it a color. Let's say it's blue. If we are all that exact thing, that is the being that we are. That is our species. That's truly what we are. And these are vessels, so that we can interact in this earth in a way that we could not as energy. Because as we know with physics, energy, pure energy, doesn't interact exactly the same way we do. Although when we interact with each other, there is energy or chemistry or whatever you want to call it, and chi between us, right? Because our real world is energy. Just imagine that. Doesn't have to be true. Doesn't have to go with your religion. Just imagine that. So now let's go back to that George Floyd situation again. Picture each one of those individuals as a blue light. This blue energy light source. Every single one. Doesn't matter what uniform they're wearing. Doesn't matter what color, creed, whatever. Religion, don't care. All those blue lights. Now try to replay that George Floyd situation. What is the real problem? Is it race? Is it racism? Is it discrimination? Or is it at the core just violence? The problem is violence. If we're all the same blue light, and we're all truly brothers and sisters, and we're all truly related and interconnected, then what you see is a blue light snuffing out another blue light. Just putting it out. Mm-hmm. Just putting it out. So if you start there, at that as the problem, and you work your way backwards and you start asking the questions, well, why? Why did we get to that point? How did we get to that point? What is the reason? There's no color here. What's the real reason that one of these blue lights would snuff out the other blue light? If you start working backwards, you come up with questions. What would cause that kind of violence? Is it something to do with how the blue light, one of the blue lights was trained, or multiple blue lights were trained? Is it something to do with, we're saying we're energy, right? Light energy. So energy, we know, has positive energy and negative energy, right? It's a very real science. Positive energy, negative energy. So let's say that you take a group of 5 blue lights and you surround them by negative energy all the time, 24/7, day in, day out, negative energy. Laws of physics tells us that energy will intertwine at some point. If they're interacting in the same space, they're going to intertwine. Those blue lights, those 5 blue lights, they're going to become the very negative energy that they're absorbing, unless something is done to maintain their positive energy, to maintain a controlled situation of that negative energy. That negative energy builds up. You don't have that negative energy, you don't have one light snuffing out another light, period. So there's got to be negative energy there. What is that negative energy? Now when you start applying it to the real world, is it training? Is it hate? Is it anger? And it doesn't matter about color. Why is it hate? Why is it training? Why is it education? Why? You start asking those questions backwards, and you start getting to the core. The answer that I came to is corruption. I don't care. Blue lives matter, black lives matter, all lives matter. Everything matters. But the hands of man is corrupt, and it has been since the day that we took to sin. That's in the Bible. It's in every Bible. It's in every origin story. The hands of man has been corrupt since the day that we took to sin. So anything touched or built by the hands of man, therefore, is subject to corruption. When you build an institution, any institution, even if you call it the institution of God, it has been built by the hand of man and therefore is subject to corruption, even more so as an institution. That includes the police. And I had cops save my life. I owe this man everything. Love my cops. But that does not mean that the institution that they work for does not have corruption within it, vibrating through its walls, vibrating through all those blue lights inside of there.
Every institution.
Mm-hmm.
And it applies to all. Even that struggle you talked about, the struggle where he was in the car and he found his way back out and he was resisting. Mm-hmm. There you go. That's a blue light with negative energy. Mm-hmm. But when you look at that negative energy, you got to ask where it comes from. And that's where you do inevitably get to racism. And I know racism is real because I've experienced it. I've been looked at like I was a cockroach. So I understand the anger. I understand the pain of so many people. I'm not negating Black Lives Matter. I'm not negating any movement because it all matters. I'm saying get down to the core issue. You get down to the core issue, you get rid of the distractions. Now you can really start coming up with solutions to how to fix the real problem. And the real problem is that corruption, right? So when we look at that corruption, we can look at family situations. I am subject to corruption and I have given into corruption. Those are my sins. And I know for a fact that every single person that I love dearly and that is around me has done the same, whether you tell me not or otherwise, whether you admit it to yourself or otherwise. We're all, exactly. Right?
That's good.
So the only way that you're able to maintain that negative energy, the only way you're able to defeat it, the only way you're able to pull the light out of the darkness is if you understand the darkness first. You can't do anything with darkness if you don't understand it. Right? Fear.
I have to say something.
Go ahead.
It's obvious you mentioned it. This world.
Yes.
This universe we live in.
Yeah, if you can get on for the camera, I'll like the voice.
This world, this universe operates on the opposites.
Okay.
Energy is a big part of this.
Yes.
And as you say, there are other dimensions. We all have this physical world we live in. And it does operate on opposites. It is all over the place and obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're talking about material or energy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you say corruption,
mm-hmm.
corruption needs to be defined. It cannot just be talked about.
I agree.
Word, all right? Also,
I agree.
When you say darkness needs to be understood before anything can be done to it, there is another side to the coin.
Mm-hmm.
Light needs to be understood as well as darkness.
Absolutely.
You cannot, because I'm just going to go with, we all know that this is opposites.
Yes.
The world and the universe is run on a principle of opposites.
Polar energy, negative and positive energy.
And it goes everywhere, from energy to material,
mm-hmm.
right? From seasons
material
to day and light.
Is energy too, all
right.
of it, yeah.
At the same time, if you look at like yin and yang, this is just a philosophy of the pattern of cycles that opposites move through. So they say, as soon as negative gets to the fullest,
mm-hmm.
and negative, according to, and I'm not putting this forth as this is legit, but according to like yin and yang philosophy, inside yin is a bit of yang.
Absolutely.
Inside yang is a bit of yin.
Absolutely.
And these, yang pushes all the way to the extreme before you think yin takes it over. It basically reaches its epitome, and yin flows in. As the same thing with heat. Heat leaves the cold and leaves and goes to the cold. That's what's going on. It's like low resistance. It goes to the lowest resistance, like water. Water is following the path of lowest resistance. Now, when I do think about, okay, we need to know what darkness is. this statement.
Yes, so that's where that's exactly where I want to dive into.
Okay.
The dark energy or the negative energy. Let's refer to it as negative energy. I'm trying to keep it as scientific as possible.
Okay.
But the negative energy, we just like you said, we have to understand the positive too, and we're working towards that. But we don't even understand the negative. You've got to understand both, because both are within each of us, right?
Yes.
Once you understand both, you can finally see yourself for who you are, for who you really are, right? Once you can understand both, how they work. But you got to take a step towards one or the other. Doesn't matter. Eventually, it's both. But the negative energy.
Understand that both are present.
Let's talk about this word corruption, right? So let's dig into that. So for me, corruption is every sin. It's the hate, it's the lust, it's the envy, it's the jealousy, it's everything. And it can be as small, and I want to give some examples so we can really dig into it.
Before you go further, it's best to just look up a definition of what they say corruption
We
is
can.
from several different sources.
We can. You
not
got
just
something? Go
one.
ahead.
So according to this dictionary, and I have American English, the British English, okay, corruption. Corruptibility, corruption. Alright, from the American English, it says it's a noun.
Okay.
The first meaning is dishonest or fraudulent conduct by those in power, typically involving bribery. That's just an name.
Yeah.
And then it gives you the action of making someone or something morally depraved, or the state of being so. Okay, that's now the second definition in the American English is the process by which something, typically a word or expression, is changed from its original use or meaning to one that is regarded as erroneous or debased. Erroneous being wrong, debased being put down.
Okay. Was that the last one in that one?
That's the last one of the only two definitions for the English. American English wait, there's a third. Decay. Putrefaction.
That's a good word right there. Putrefaction, yeah.
Alright.
That's
So,
I know. That's
The
that's
British
one
English-
definition right
the
there.
British
What do you
English
got there?
is pretty much always the same, except for some small changes. But this one is exactly the same.
I think she's got something there.
No, it's not even in here.
No? Which one is that? Webster's?
Yeah.
C-U-R-R, two R's.
Yeah.
No? Wow.
It's interesting.
Wow, this is really small. Fraudulent by power.
So this word corruption. We look at corruption of man. We look at this blue light situation, right? Let me give you a scenario. We have a blue light, single blue light, that is sitting pretty, shining bright, all this stuff, right? You've got negative and positive energy. This blue light starts pulling on the blue light of 100 other people. Just pulling, just taking it, just pulling it in. All the positive energy from 100 people, just pulling it in, right?
Okay.
Eventually, when energy transfers, it goes both ways. It's a flow, right?
Yeah.
So if this positive,
Destroyed.
right? So if this positive is being all taken in, and she's using this blue light is using negative energy to suck it all in, that leaves that 100 people with negative energy, right? They're going to be angry because something just got taken from them. A part of their soul, of who they are, just got taken. So they're going to be angry, and that anger is negative energy. So that's just going to fuel that negative energy. So now let's put a picture on this, right? There was this lady in the news not too long ago. You may have seen it or heard of it. I can't remember her name, but she canceled herself. Cancel culture is nothing when you talk about, but she canceled herself because I guess she built her whole career on saying that she was black and Latina. She used to go around and say she was Puerto Rican.
You said she canceled herself?
Yeah, cancel culture.
Cancel culture.
Basically, she just went out. The term they're using, she went out and she outed herself. She went out in public and she said, "Hey, look, I'm ashamed of myself. I built my career on lies. I pretended to be, black and Latina, be Puerto Rican a lot of the time, whatever. And, I did wrong by my people."
Okay.
And the position that she had was a position it's a coveted position where there are a lot of black and Latina people that would have killed for that position, you know what I mean, that had to fight against some of the same corruption that we've been talking about. They've had to fight that to get to that spot, and she just took it and just fed all this pot. So what happened is she outed herself, but now there's this huge outrage against her, right?
Yes.
Why? Because something was taken from these blue lights, 100 of them. Something was taken from them, then they can never get back. And in place of it, what was left, in place of the positive energy that they lost, they received negative energy. Now you have one blue light that multiplied that negative energy by 100. Okay. And that spreads. So negative energy starts spreading and spreading and spreading and spreading. If the negative energy is spreading and multiplying faster than the positive energy, eventually you can't see the light anymore. Right? So that's one scenario, and that's current events. Anybody can look it up. That's what the black community is pissed at. That's what the minorities are pissed at. That's what the Latin, community is pissed at, and they have every right to be. But at the same time, if you only understand, you made up that great point. You have to understand the light, at the good energy, as well as the positive energy, as well as the negative energy. If you don't understand both, then you'll be lost. So let's say that these communities, they have the anger and they understand their anger. They understand where their anger comes from. They understand where the negative energy comes from. It comes from years of abuse and all this other stuff. But if they don't understand the light as well, and if they don't dig into that negative energy, they're just going to get lost and consumed by more negative energy. So that's one situation. We have another situation talking about cancel culture, right? Adele. You guys heard about Adele?
No.
So Adele is this, let me tell you, she's a singer. I don't really listen to much of her music because I think it's more like, it's not really my stuff. A lot of females like it. But from what I know of her, she's been like a role model for a lot of women. She's like the every woman or whatever. But not just that. I have seen her perform. This lady has a beautiful soul. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful person. Like a beautiful heart. Really. She's a good person. I don't know her, but I could see that. And she had like no drama in her, like no scandals or anything like that. She goes to this thing, I believe it was in England for like the English Jamaican people. And it was kind of a parade that there locally, and that's what they do. It's a celebration. And they allow that kind of Jamaican culture. All Jamaican culture, really, they're friendly. They're good people. They understand peace and love. You know what I mean? Like, who better than them? You know what I mean? Jamaicans understand peace and love. So having other people, having these other blue lights, right? All these blue lights. You're having all these other blue lights coming and supporting each other in positive energy. You have these kids that came out, or whoever, from the other side, because they're so full of negative energy. So full of negative energy, so full of anger. They're just looking for something to grab at. So they see her over here in this flesh. They see her in their garments and their hair, and they're, oh, you're still in our culture, when really she's just trying to celebrate it. So now you go back to the blue light then. You take out her hair and her garments and her look and her white skin. You take all that out, and all you really have there, her big crime, is that she was celebrating with her other blue lights. She was celebrating them. But it became an issue because who is she to celebrate it, right? So that's where you get anger begetting anger, negative energy begetting negative energy. whatever you want to call it, darkness begetting darkness, that's where you get all of this building on each other. And what happens is people tend to overcorrect. So I'm so angry for all of this, for centuries of abuse. I'm so angry for all of it that now, even when there's someone trying to offer me positive energy, even when there's someone that's trying to lift me up, I just want to lash out anyway, because that's all that's left in me is this negative energy, this anger, right? So that's just a couple of different scenarios. So now you talk about, let's look at like some family situations. We don't get that tabloid stuff. We don't get drama of, races and all that stuff going on. But day to day, when you say I love you to your son, what does that mean to you? What are you saying to him? What does that really mean?
Trying to describe the word love is for the ages. Greeks have 4 words for love. There are 4 different Greek loves in the sense they try to use the description of. You could have love romantically, love for your parents, love of a activity.
Mm-hmm.
When I say I love my son,
it's not working.
basically it would mean I'm willing to give my life. If I say I support him,
Yeah.
if he's doing wrong, I don't support him. I don't support his action. That doesn't mean I abandon him. But love in the sense of saying I love you, at its, I can't say it's the peak, but it's basically saying that I am willing to give my life for you.
So when you say I love you to your son, you what you're really saying is I'm willing to give my life for you. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. When you say I love you to your mom, are you saying the same thing?
Yes. You are.
When you say I love you to your significant other, are you saying the same thing?
Yes. Although, like I said, when you use the word love to your significant other, it may imply romantic. It doesn't imply romantic with your son or your mother.
Okay.
But
So
it still holds, no matter what, when it pertains to a person, it still holds that foundation. If you use that word, it should hold the foundation of you are willing to give your life.
So we've been talking about words a lot, very specific to the definition, which thank you, I appreciate that. Calling out definition of, like, let's get all the definitions, let's get this.
Can I get the definition of love?
Yeah, go for it.
Let me just pull up one thing, this Greek thing.